what's interesting is that there's an assumption that the majority of sex workers are women, or that only women are sex workers. But what we found here in Las Vegas, and I think this is pretty exemplary of sex workers across the U.S., is that there are plenty of men who work in the sex industry and lots of transgender people who also work in the sex industry. And of the women and the men and the transgender people who work in the sex industry, you know, there's varying gender identities, there's varying sexual identities, and even within their clients, varying gender identities, varying sexual identities. So it's not just about this patriarchal oppression of women in the sex industry for, you know, women servicing men. And so what happens in, for example, in Las Vegas, men sex workers may not necessarily even be targeted by police. They're sort of an invisible population. Transgender sex workers are more likely sometimes to be targeted by police and experience more physical violence, more sexual violence at the hand of police or of other people just because they are trans. And so when we talk about, you know, sex workers of varying genders and varying sexual identities, the sort of gender binary and heteronormativity of it all becomes very, very clear, because we assume, A, that only women work for the servicing of men, and that anybody who, you know, is outside of that isn't, you know, it's an outlier and not representative of the sex industry itself. But what we find among sex workers and among sex worker activists is that it is a very, very diverse field.